6.1 magnitude earthquake in East Tennessee. According to the U.S. Geological Survey,
a deadly storm system has moved through the central United States.
The announcement from the USGS that a red alert had been issued after a sudden crust movement below Tennessee immediately turned scientific attention toward a part of the country that is rarely associated with such dramatic geologic warnings. Tennessee is not commonly placed in the same mental category as California or Alaska when it comes to seismic risk. Yet the state sits within reach of one of the most notorious seismic zones in North America, the new Madrid Seismic Zone. When reports emerged that deep crustal shifts had been detected and were serious enough to warrant the highest level geological alert, many were startled into realizing how complex and fragile the earth beneath the southeastern United States really is. A red alert in USGS terminology is not issued lightly. It signifies an event that carries potential consequences for infrastructure, lives, and long-term environmental stability. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The crustal movement below Tennessee signals forces that have been building quietly and invisibly, reminding scientists and the public alike that the Earth's interior never rests. Beneath the rolling hills and forested valleys of Tennessee lies a patchwork of ancient fault systems, some of them relics of tectonic episodes stretching back hundreds of millions of years. These fractures and weaknesses in the bedrock are the scars of continental collisions, rifts, and reshaping of the North American plate. For the most part, they remain locked and silent, exerting no immediate influence on the lives of people above. But on occasion, stresses that accumulate over centuries suddenly release, producing movements that can ripple across regions far from the epicenter. The event that triggered the USGS alert is a stark example of this geological truth, that even in places perceived as quiet, the crust can shift in dramatic and unpredictable ways. The detection of this movement was no accident. Over the past several decades, networks of seismographs and GPS-based crustal monitoring systems have been installed throughout the eastern half of the United States. These instruments are exquisitely sensitive to the slightest tremors and displacements. In Tennessee, such monitoring is especially important because of the state's proximity to the new Madrid faults to the west and the Appalachian seismic structures to the east. What the instruments captured in this recent episode was not a gradual creep or micro-tremor, but a sudden and measurable shift in crustal alignment. This kind of abrupt displacement, even if not immediately accompanied by a large earthquake, indicates that stresses are redistributing underground. The issuing of a red alert was an acknowledgement that the situation could escalate, as sudden crustal movements often precede or coincide with seismic or subsurface instability. One of the most significant aspects of such crustal activity in Tennessee is the way seismic energy travels through the central and eastern United States. Unlike in the west, where fractured and younger crust tends to dampen seismic waves, the ancient rocks of the east are denser and more continuous. This means that when an earthquake occurs in Tennessee, Missouri, or Arkansas, the shaking can be felt over an area 10 times larger than a quake of similar magnitude in California. The crust acts almost like a bell, transmitting the energy outward with startling efficiency. A tremor in western Tennessee could be perceptible as far away as the Carolinas, Chicago, or even parts of the Northeast. That amplification potential is one reason why a red alert tied to crustal movement in Tennessee commands so much attention. The implications for Tennessee itself are multi-layered. The state is home to dense urban centers such as Memphis and Nashville, both of which sit in zones where seismic activity could be consequential. Memphis especially lies close to the western portion of the state, nearer the most seismically active stretches of the Mississippi embayment. A sudden crustal shift there raises concerns about the vulnerability of older infrastructure, much of which was not designed with strong seismic resistance in mind. Bridges, levees, pipelines, and even the power grid could be tested by seismic waves reverberating through the region. Nashville, though further east, also faces risks, particularly for its expanding skyline of tall buildings and the critical role it plays in commerce and culture across the southeast. From a geological perspective, the sudden movement beneath Tennessee is a reminder that tectonic stresses in the middle of the continent are complex and often poorly understood. Unlike the clear boundaries between plates on the west coast, the faults in the interior of North America are intraplate in nature. This means they do not mark active plate edges, but instead represent ancient zones of weakness that can still rupture under pressure. Scientists studying the Tennessee event are particularly concerned with how it fits into the broader history of the region's seismicity. Historical records describe the catastrophic New Madrid earthquakes of 1811-1812, when a series of massive tremors shook the central U.S., ringing church bells as far away as Boston and altering the course of the Mississippi River. Though the Tennessee crustal shift is not of that magnitude, its suddenness forces geologists to ask whether it is part of a cycle of accumulating strain that could eventually unleash another major intraplate earthquake. What distinguishes the red alert in Tennessee is not just the detection of motion, but the clear signal that it was rapid and unanticipated. For geologists, this raises urgent questions about what processes are currently at work below the surface. One possibility is that the shift represents reactivation of a fault line that has lain dormant for centuries. Another is that fluids migrating through deep layers of rock have altered the stress balance, lubricating a fault and triggering slippage. Both scenarios highlight how dynamic the supposedly stable heartland of the continent actually is. Scientists emphasize that the crust is never entirely at rest. Rather, it exists in a perpetual balancing act of forces that can tip into motion when thresholds are reached. The red alert also underscores the role of modern monitoring technology in revealing these hidden dynamics. Without networks of sensors, such a crustal movement might have gone undetected until it expressed itself through surface shaking. The fact that instruments were able to detect and characterize the shift provides invaluable data for future risk assessment. It also serves as a kind of test for emergency preparedness systems. Authorities and infrastructure managers can use the alert as an opportunity to evaluate readiness, checking whether contingency plans, communications, and safety protocols are sufficient for a scenario in which the crust continues to shift or generates a significant earthquake. On a larger scale, the Tennessee crustal event highlights the interconnectedness of geologic processes across regions. Movements in one part of the crust can alter stress fields in adjacent areas, sometimes triggering responses far away. The Appalachian Mountains to the east, though considered geologically ancient and stable, have faults that remain capable of small earthquakes. The Mississippi embayment to the west, shaped by repeated tectonic and sedimentary events, is another zone of ongoing activity. A crustal adjustment in Tennessee could therefore reverberate through these broader systems. Scientists are closely watching whether any secondary seismicity emerges in neighboring states, which would provide clues about how energy is being redistributed. The environmental dimension of sudden crustal shifts cannot be ignored. Tennessee's landscape is threaded with rivers, reservoirs, and wetlands, all of which are sensitive to ground movement. A sufficiently strong crustal disturbance could alter groundwater flow, disrupt riverbanks, or even affect dam stability. While the red alert does not necessarily mean such effects are imminent, the awareness that geological events can influence water systems is part of the concern. Tennessee relies heavily on both surface water and groundwater for agriculture, industry, and household use. A disruption to those supplies, even temporary, would ripple through daily life. Cultural and psychological factors are also part of the implications of the alert. Residents of Tennessee are not accustomed to thinking of themselves as living in a high-risk seismic zone. Tornadoes, floods, and severe storms are more commonly associated with the region's hazards. The idea that the ground itself could suddenly shift beneath their feet is disquieting. The USGS Red Alert brings this possibility into sharp focus, forcing communities to confront the reality of hidden geologic forces. Such an awakening can be unsettling, but it also provides an opportunity for education and preparedness. People may be more willing to learn about earthquake safety, building codes, and emergency kits when they realize the risks are not abstract but real. The scientific community views the Tennessee event as a rich source of data. By analyzing the exact timing, depth, and magnitude of the crustal movement, researchers can refine their models of intraplate stress distribution. They can compare the signals from Tennessee with those from other parts of the central and eastern United States, looking for patterns that might indicate where future activity is most likely. These analyses take time, but every data point improves the collective understanding of how the continent's interior behaves. The Tennessee movement is not just a local story. It is a piece of the puzzle in deciphering North America's deep geologic architecture. There is also a broader philosophical resonance in events like this. They remind us that human time frames, years, decades, even centuries, are brief against the backdrop of geological time. Tennessee's hills, valleys, and rivers seem eternal to those who live among them, but the Earth is in constant flux beneath the surface. A sudden crustal shift is like the planet exhaling, a small reminder of its restless energy. For people, such reminders can be unsettling, but they also inspire awe. The Earth is not a static platform, but a living system of forces that have shaped continents, created mountains, and triggered mass extinctions. The Tennessee Red Alert is a local expression of this global truth. As the monitoring continues, scientists remain cautious but deeply attentive. Each hour of data collected adds nuance to the picture of what is unfolding. Was the movement a one-time release of pressure, or is it part of a sequence that could culminate in something larger? That question remains open. But the fact that the USGS saw fit to issue its highest level alert means that the event was significant enough to warrant vigilance. It is a reminder that beneath the tranquility of Tennessee's landscapes lies a restless Earth, capable of sudden and profound shifts. The story of the Tennessee crustal movement will continue to evolve as data are analyzed and interpreted. What is already clear, however, is that the event has expanded awareness of seismic risk in places often overlooked. It has reinforced the importance of monitoring systems and emergency planning. It has reminded scientists and citizens alike that the heartland of the United States is not immune to the planet's deeper rhythms. Above all, it has underscored the fragile balance between human civilization and the shifting crust upon which it rests. The red alert issued by the USGS after the sudden crust movement beneath Tennessee carries with it more than the immediate shock of a geologic anomaly. It also pushes the spotlight onto deeper questions about how the Earth's interior interacts with the surface environment, how societies interpret geologic threats, and how technology and human planning intertwine when facing forces far beyond our control. Although the specifics of the Tennessee movement have already set off waves of scientific discussion, the broader implications ripple into economics, culture, engineering, and even philosophy. Expanding the lens to consider these layers reveals just how far-reaching such an event can be in its meaning. One dimension that stands out is the economic vulnerability exposed by sudden crustal instability in the Tennessee region. Tennessee is not only a place of cultural significance and natural beauty, but also a critical corridor for trade and infrastructure. Highways, railways, and river traffic through the Mississippi and Tennessee River systems form vital arteries connecting the Southeast with the Midwest. The sudden awareness that these lifelines sit atop shifting crust raises practical questions. Engineers and policymakers must grapple with what would happen if a significant crustal disturbance damaged bridges across the Mississippi, halted rail transport, or cracked major highways. Even a moderate event could create bottlenecks in supply chains, particularly for agricultural goods, manufactured products, and energy resources flowing through the region. The agricultural heartland that extends into western Tennessee and its neighboring states is deeply tied to stable environmental conditions. Crops like soybeans, cotton, and corn depend on consistent access to irrigation systems and reliable transport to markets. If seismic movement altered river courses or damaged pumping stations, the agricultural economy could face shocks at precisely the moment when food systems already contend with climate challenges. Similarly, livestock production, which relies heavily on water and feed delivery systems, could be indirectly affected by disruptions in transportation and infrastructure. The Tennessee Red Alert, while primarily a geologic event, exposes this interdependence between Earth processes and human food security. Cultural history adds another profound layer. Tennessee, particularly the Mississippi embayment area and surrounding valleys, has long been a site of settlement, commerce, and storytelling. Indigenous peoples living in the region centuries ago were no strangers to the trembling of the earth. Oral traditions from Native American groups across the Mississippi Valley contain references to earth-shaking events, strange sounds from the ground, and rivers flowing backward. These stories, passed down across generations, hint at a long human awareness of seismic unpredictability in the central United States. The sudden crust movement beneath Tennessee connects directly to that deep timeline of human observation. It reinforces the continuity between ancient memory and modern science, showing that the Earth has always spoken through its motions and that people have always tried to interpret its signals. At the same time, the red alert highlights a paradox of modern living. Advanced technology gives society the ability to detect even subtle changes in crustal alignment, yet this very knowledge confronts people with vulnerabilities they might prefer not to see. In Tennessee, the sight of rolling hills, farmland, and tranquil rivers fosters a sense of permanence. To be told that beneath these landscapes lies a restless, shifting crust is to have that sense of permanence disturbed. The psychological dimension of living with awareness of seismic risk is significant. People may feel a heightened sense of uncertainty even if no immediate disaster unfolds. The red alert forces communities to balance the need for vigilance with the need to maintain daily life without paralyzing fear. The Tennessee event also intersects with questions of energy and resource management. The state and surrounding regions are home to networks of natural gas pipelines, oil transport systems, and electrical transmission lines. These networks are critical not just locally but nationally, as they move energy across large swaths of the country. A crustal disturbance raises the possibility of pipeline rupture, power line damage, or subsurface shifts that compromise energy infrastructure. Unlike storms or floods, which can often be forecast and tracked, crustal shifts emerge suddenly, leaving little time for protective measures. The Tennessee Red Alert serves as a reminder that energy resilience is not only about renewable technology or grid upgrades, but also about anticipating the geologic foundation upon which all infrastructure is built. Looking deeper into the science, the Tennessee crustal movement challenges prevailing models of how intraplate stresses accumulate and release. Most people think of earthquakes as phenomena confined to the boundaries between tectonic plates, where collision, subduction, or sliding create constant activity. Yet the North American continent tells a different story. Its interior, though seemingly stable, contains scars of ancient rifting events, such as the failed Reelfoot Rift beneath the Mississippi embayment. These scars act as zones of weakness, capable of reactivating under new stress conditions. The Tennessee shift may well be connected to such ancient features, making it a geological echo of processes that began hundreds of millions of years ago. Scientists must therefore revisit models of continental stability, asking whether other so-called quiet areas of the continent could produce similarly surprising movements. Seismologists working on the Tennessee event also face the challenge of distinguishing between isolated crustal slips and precursors to broader seismic episodes. In California, where seismic swarms and foreshocks are well documented, scientists can often rely on patterns to anticipate what might come next. In the intraplate regions of the United States, such patterns are less obvious, and the database of historical precedents is smaller. That makes each event precious as a research opportunity. The Tennessee Red Alert is more than a local warning. It is a valuable data point in a global effort to understand how intraplate earthquakes operate. The lessons learned could inform not only U.S. risk management, but also preparedness in other parts of the world where ancient faults remain active, such as Central Australia, Eastern Canada, or parts of China. The ecological implications of crustal movement in Tennessee deserve equal attention. Shifts in the crust can subtly alter drainage patterns, groundwater flows, and soil stability. In wetland regions, even small adjustments can ripple outward to affect plant communities, fish habitats, and migratory bird pathways. Tennessee lies within a zone of remarkable biodiversity, particularly in its river systems, which host some of the richest freshwater mussel populations in the world. A crustal disturbance that changes sediment loads or alters water chemistry could have cascading effects on these ecosystems. While the red alert does not equate to immediate ecological collapse, it draws attention to the delicate balance between geologic stability and ecological health. From an educational perspective, the Tennessee event offers a rare chance to engage the public in discussions about geology, resilience, and the dynamic Earth. Schools, museums, and science centers across the state can use the red alert as a springboard to teach about plate tectonics, seismic risk, and emergency preparedness. The challenge is to do so without sensationalizing the risk or sowing unnecessary panic. Framing the crustal movement as both a scientific discovery and a natural reminder of Earth's vitality can empower communities to see themselves as active participants in resilience rather than passive victims of geologic forces. The Tennessee crustal movement also highlights disparities in preparedness across different regions of the country. California, with its long seismic history, has building codes, emergency drills, and cultural awareness deeply rooted in its society. Tennessee, by contrast, lacks widespread seismic preparedness, even though history shows that the central U.S. can produce some of the continent's most powerful earthquakes. The red alert could serve as a catalyst for updating building standards, strengthening emergency management systems, and fostering cross-state collaborations. Neighboring states such as Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi share the same seismic vulnerabilities and would also benefit from a coordinated approach. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on sudden crust movement below Tennessee? Dangerous or not? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.